Hi, I'm just Bodo, and you can just call me Bodo, and welcome to my last Ashes of Creation video. Now, just want to give a quick shout out. Thank you for uh, putting this down there. I was waiting a few days just to see what's happening with the whole Stephen Sharif and Ashes of Creation closing down before I made this video. Now, I've recorded this video a few times. I'm going to try and keep this short. I don't want to drag this out. So, in terms of Ashes of Creation and what has happened, Stephen has resigned. The leadership, senior leadership, has also resigned. And following that, the controlling, I guess we'll just call it board. It's not a board of directors. We don't know that 100%, but just the controlling body of the Intrepid Studios decided to use the WARN Act in California and proceed with a mass layoff. And the game is 100% dead. Steam is actually removing the game, so you can't even buy it on Steam if they not have already done that, because I believe they were going to do that February 2nd. And I believe I got the confirmation yesterday from a few guildies that you can't even buy it on Steam anymore. So looks like that went through. The game is officially dead. It's officially over. Now, let's just break down very quickly what Steven's talking about here. I can make a limited statement in my personal capacity and on behalf of the company regarding the situation because at this time of him making the statement, he resigned. Control of the company shifted away from me, and the board, keyword, it's just board, not board of directors, began directing actions that I could not ethically agree with or carry out. Now, this could be cap. This could be 100% cap. But what I believe what happened is that we know Steven has been funding this game for a long time. He isn't just paying this out of his pocket. He went to the bank, leveraging his own assets, also collateral on the company itself, Intrepid Studios, to maintain a loan and to make sure that loan wasn't volatile at all, that it was a healthy loan that the bank would want to continue and give Steven more and more money year after year after year. Now, what I believe happened is that Stephen went through some financial issues, whether it's his own personal issues and he had an issue maintaining the loan, or it was an issue in terms of the loan wasn't as healthy anymore. It was getting a little bit more volatile, maybe based on what was happening with Intrepid Studios and public perception, or maybe the loan, which whatever bank he went to, the people that were managing that loan just didn't understand the area or what he was trying to do and was wondering, hey, when are you going to pay this loan off? When is the ROI? When is this and that and that? And it may have gotten to a point where the bank started taking control of whatever assets he put up to leverage on, which would definitely be the all of Intrepid Studio and all of the IP and assets and stuff like that. Now, whether or not the board was the bank, or it could have been a mixture of the bank and some investors, maybe the investors teamed up with the bank. Whatever happened here, we know that Steven doesn't actually have control of the company at all. Besides him obviously resigning, but he lost control of the company. He lost control of the company. Do not blame the board or the bank. Blame Steven because he's the one that lost control of the company, whether he mismanaged the project himself or Steven decided to maybe oversell or overextend what he was trying to, what his goals were and what he was trying to do. It's all on Steven. If this is the Chris Roberts effect where Steven's like, we need to keep adding more and more complexity, and we need the game to have this and that, and this and that. The difference between Star Citizen and Ashes of Creation is that Star Citizen prints money from incentives of selling ship packages and bundles and stuff like that. Steven was selling packages and bundles, but not at the level of Star Citizen, where they're almost at $1 billion raised by themselves, and Steven is managing this entire project essentially on his own financial situation and also whatever backers are willing to pay to also help maintain. So yeah, that's the big, looking from a bird's eye view of that situation. And I think there's a lot of people that probably just don't know that context or understand that context. But well, we've known about the money issues for a very long time in the Ashes Creation community. As a result, he chose to resign in protest. So maybe what they were asking is like, hey, we need to launch the game soon. Hey, we need to get people to buy a bunch of bundles. Hey, we need people to do this and that to generate enough money, either to get their return and then dump the project, or get the return, generate perceived value, and maybe even sell the project to another company. Typically, if they're looking, if they think like red alert, we need to make our money back, they would try to generate as much value while trying to take as much value out in terms of offering packages and stuff like that. And they would probably have ended up selling the company. But yeah, that's my like 5 minute spiel on this whole situation and like my breakdown and what we do know of. Um, this last message kind of ticked me off where he's trying to say, "Oh, I feel bad for my staff. They acted in good faith and they deserve better." Reason why this ticks me off is that if Steven, there's a few people that have suggested this, not just me, but if Steven really wanted to protect his employees, he could have just bent the knee, maybe ran the project for another 5 or 6 months and kind of shined a little bit of sunlight maybe on the situation of the company with the developers or his team, and people could have slowly just started leaving and looking for jobs, or at least be prepared to start looking for jobs. That's kind of the big talking point that people have kind of said, but I'll leave it that there. That's up for you guys to decide. So he's also made public statements here that he's going to have a public filing. A lot of the information and what's happened behind the scenes will come from whatever comes out of his public filing. He's going for I'll be filing, when filings become public, there'll be a clear factual record to reference. So he's going through the legal system. Basically, what he's just saying is that wait until the legal system goes through and you guys will find out in 5 or 6 years, however long it's going to be. So let's talk about like my talking points. The issue that they had a lot, like the big issue, was just the implementation of content. When the game first came out, we could grind mobs, get to max level, craft gear, and kill each other. That was it. That was essentially the loop that we had. Then came caravans, which was a lot of fun, a lot of risk reward. You essentially would take the glint from the mobs that you'd kill. You take that glint, you go to a node, you would turn that glint into commodities. You'd put those commodities into your caravan, and then you would travel. And depending on how far you go to a different node, you could turn in those commodities and you can make a lot of gold. Now, because of the caravan system, if you guys are aware of this, it was a mobile PvP event. Event would pop up. You could choose to be a defender or attacker, and when the person would go to the node, they just turn in their caravan, and the event would end. When the person was first summons their caravan, the event would start. And a lot of people wanted to make money. A lot of people wanted to do caravans. There was tons of caravans all the time. It was kind of the first complete game loop that they had that also draw the attention of people in terms of wanting to do it, but also wanting to fight over it as well. And it was great for the game. It gave a lot of eyeballs to the game. It gave us a lot of stuff to really do on a day to day basis, and people were going above and beyond with having their whole guilds involved on caravan runs, and you'd have these massive guild and guild events which would sometimes turn into a three-way fight. And it was really good content for the game. And for the longest time, that's all the real content and the real draw for the game were these caravan fights, which was really upsetting for me because what it showed is that um, a lot of the things that they were implementing and building, they're focusing more on like terrain and giving the world more life, which I agreed with, but they forgot about the draw factor, the complete game loops that would, regardless of what server you're on and what guilds are on each server, regardless of that, people are naturally going to do. It's going to cause conflict. And on top of that, it's going to generate a bunch of gameplay for everybody on a daily basis because it's a complete loop and everybody's going to do it regardless over and over and over. That's what a lot of the game was missing. Now, recently we got sports fishing, And if you go into the saltwater, you need a boat to go do sports fishing efficiently. And there was a lot of people fighting over these fishing holes. There were pirates that just wanted to kill fishermen and take their stuff. And there was a lot of fishermen that were banding together to protect these fishing holes and to protect their boats. And stuff like that. It was just natural content. It was a perfect game loop. It was just going over and over and over. Even when the boat got popped, people would rebuild their boats. And it drawed a lot of attention, a lot of eyes. It was great content, healthy content for the game. But it's sad to say you can only say that for only two aspects of the game. A lot of development in my eyes got wasted because they weren't prioritizing this stuff. They weren't prioritizing the draw factor and the entertainment factor. They were trying to they mismanaged crafting. They'd have like five different iterations of crafting. And I mean, when I mean different iterations, there was like three main ones, but there were some half changes along the way. And a lot of people don't consider crafting a complete loop. It's not as a big draw factor or entertaining. It's not what's going to keep people there for a long time. It'll keep certain people, but it's not going to keep everybody there. It was a complete game loop, but the game loop would dry out eventually the more people got geared. So it wasn't perfect. Leveling is not a game loop. Grinding drops is not a game loop. It's a gold generation thing that you can do. You can get crafting materials out of it, but it wasn't a perfect game loop. It was solo. It was solo stuff. Open world PvP, that is not an actual game loop. That is a byproduct of other events like sports fishing and caravan, which people have a lot of fun and it attracts people. But unfortunately, caravans had an update, a rework a while ago that completely killed the caravan um, uh, content altogether. And pretty much you only had sports fishing that was generating this natural PvP and this natural conflict, and some of the big draws to the game, which, you know, depending on how you guys perceive the information I'm trying to tell you, whether you disagree or agree with some points, I think we can all state that their focus for a lot of time was not on our enjoyment factor. It was just on creating a bunch of like subsystems and systems of other systems to get other content on. And I believe that was a huge mismanaged opportunity. The fact that caravans died overnight because of the whole rework of caravans and how trade packs came into existence with mules and people carrying them on their backs, that right there, these should have 180 that so quick and gone back to the old caravan format because they pretty much lost half of the purpose to play the game in terms of draw and fun and entertainment and risk and reward. Um, they shot themselves in the foot. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but take that for what it is. So now let's talk about the kind of false advertising that a lot of people, that's how they commented on it. But for me, it was that the constantly polished things and made it look way better than what was actually being worked on behind the scenes and what would actually be implemented in the servers. And I want to say slash sometimes because they didn't always do that. But if they could polish a turd and make it look better than what it was, they would. The best example of this is Freeholds. It's the one that always get commented and brought up. Steven himself has said that in one of the 1v1 interviews that he's done, it could have been, it was either Dusty, Vladis, or Copium Clinic. It was one of those three where he essentially said when they were making this video, the Freehold video, that a lot of the Freehold stuff was just visual assets. There was no behind the scenes internal like uh, uh, ways to set up a pig pen or a cow pen. There was no interactional like UI for you to do that stuff. What was placed in that video was literally just a pure visual asset, because in reality what we got was a house with a kind of plot of land with a barrier around it, and you could plant trees and that was it. There was no cows, there was no fancy crops you could plant there. It was just trees essentially. Maybe if I'm wrong, call me out in the comments below. Maybe they implemented that towards the tail end, but then they abruptly just got rid of freeholds altogether. And that's just one of the things, like if you're gonna show us like the full end product and then give us a not even a half attempt at it in game, and people are going to call you out on that stuff. I mean, at some point you're going to have to fix what you're doing in terms of how you're presenting the game. Now, I want to show you guys my take from all the way back then, from when freeholds were kind of coming out, when all the first time we got to touch it during alpha 2, not phase 2, alpha 2, kind of my impressions back then and my hot take. So we're gonna kind of look at that right now, and I'm gonna give my hot take. This is my hot take on this matter. I believe Intrepid Studios did more damage to themselves by making sure all their showcases were so polished, and they didn't show kind of the current state of the game like how it is right now. I feel like they could have not necessarily dumbed down, but showed the more rough, choppy aspects of the game in their showcases. And I think it would have tempered and helped expectations extremely, especially the expectation that when Alpha 2 rolls around and we're going to be able to play it persistently, like straight from the get-go. I feel like they should have hammered down way harder that this is not just an Alpha 2 and you're going to have persistency from the get-go. This is a test. This is supposed to be rough and choppy, and they should have showcased that way more. So I think the people's mind, that's an important point. They should have showcased how rough and choppy a lot of these systems that they were working on, instead of trying to show like the most polished, what the expected should look like in-game version of everything. Now it wasn't like that all the time, but let's continue watching the vid. Minds were just through the moon of when they hop into the game, or like, actually let me just backpedal a bit. And they should have showcased that way more. So I think the people's minds were just through the moon of when they hop into the game, or like, what is this buggy mess? Why does it look so rough? You know, why is my quest broken? And that's just because it's an alpha 2, and showcases that we saw looked like it was pretty much a finished game. Like, I think that's the big like, it's definitely a misconnect, but I think that's the biggest issue. I think that is my biggest critique of Intrepid. I'm gonna bring my fat head back in here, and we'll swap back to this. So yeah, that's pretty much my take on a lot of the issues that I had with the game, which I thought was, you know, how they were managing their content, and you know, when it came to them advertising the stuff that they were adding to the game. You know, if you want to continue watching my channel, you know, subscribe, stay in tuned. I'll have an update probably within a week of what my plans are going forward for my channel. I know a few other content creators are kind of uploading those videos kind of right now. I'm gonna be a little bit later because I really need to think about if I even want to continue making content. I really do. I enjoy it. It's kind of like therapy for me. So for me, I definitely will be still continuing. I just don't know 100%. But Guild Wars 2 is like the #1 runner for me. In terms of what's been happening with Ashes, it's kind of a fever dream. I know. It's very unfortunate. A lot of people aren't going to get their money back. I don't think anybody really is going to get their money back. But at least we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good time spent together. And you know what? There's a lot of great MMOs that are still, people are still playing. So the genre isn't dead. It's just the prospects for the future is dwindling. So yeah, I hope you have a nice day. I hope you enjoy the video, and stay tuned if you want to see Guild Wars 2 stuff in the future, and also what my plan is going in the future. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching the video.